In 2020, I had 10 questions for atheists, and the response was pretty big. I put my reaction to the videos that atheists made in response to it into a playlist on this channel that you can check out, and I still get answers to those questions to this day. But now, as 2025 is upon us, I've got 5 questions for atheists in 2025, given certain events and current debates in the worldview discussion arena. If you're an atheist, I want to know what your answer is to these questions. So let's just jump right in. Question 1. Cameron Bertuzzi over at Capturing Christianity recently caused a lot of controversy by saying he no longer takes atheism seriously.
The reason why I don't take atheism seriously any longer is because even if we accept the atheist's strongest argument, it still wouldn't prove atheism.
We have these really powerful arguments, at least from our perspective, on the theist side, like arguments from fine-tuning. But yes, there are arguments on the other side that are meant to show that it's unlikely God exists or that God does not exist, like arguments from evil or divine hiddenness arguments. And so this puts us in an interesting spot. We've got arguments for and against. But as Philip Goff suggested recently, perhaps you have a God of limited power. This would mean you have really powerful arguments from God on the theist side, like the fine-tuning arguments. But then the arguments from evil and divine hiddenness no longer become powerful arguments for atheism. Instead, what they are arguments for a limited God, but not arguments for no God. And so there's no reason to take atheism seriously, someone might decide. So the question is Cameron wrong? And if so, why is he wrong? Question 2, some atheist creators seem to think that the recent presidential election was so important that it changes the way they should do things on their channels. Watch.
I am going to be changing things up on YouTube quite a bit, to the extent that I'm not going to be doing this channel anymore. So I don't think the timing is lost on anybody here, that this is happening, shortly after the last political election. I'm not going to lie, very, very distraught and a little freaked out by the results, not just who won, but the extent by which they won. And that does get us all thinking about our future and our safety and what things are going to look like going forward. Basically, what that did is that just jolted me. For a while, I just kind of been on the treadmill doing what I was doing. I wanted to get off at some point and doing something different. And so this election and the little jolt that it gave me just kind of pushed me off the algorithm treadmill and gave me the prompt to just do something a little different.
I am shifting gears a little bit here and widening the lens, so to speak. And I want to talk about it because I've changed my mind since my last video. I posted a kind of off-the-cuff video of my thoughts and feelings post-election. And I said that the political conversation, I didn't want it to set the tone for future videos. And I didn't want to get into politics. And I wanted to stay focused on what I was doing. But I changed my mind.
Why do you think that this election was so impactful to atheists in this way? What did it reveal about the culture? Question 3. Many atheists are determinists, meaning that they don't believe in free will, at least not of the sort that many people think of when they hear the term free will. They believe that the past history of the universe is like to a billion trains of dominoes or trillions of chains of dominoes that result in the past history of the cosmos, the formation of your physical body, your past life experiences, your neural structure, and the firings of neurons in your brain that are your choices, but could not have been otherwise. On the other hand, maybe some atheists think that we have what's called libertarian freedom, the notion that whatever you ended up choosing, you really could have done otherwise. So here's my question. If you're a determinist, how do we hold people morally culpable for things they do that could not have been otherwise, given the history of the universe? And if it is the case that you believe in free will of the libertarian sort, as an atheist, how is that possible without God? Now, just as a note, there are many determinists who will say they are compatibilists. And what that means is not that libertarian freedom is compatible with determinism. Compatibilists hold that determinism is true. It's just that we can hold people morally culpable in spite of the determinism. That moral culpability is possible, is compatible with determinism. So it doesn't answer the question. I'm asking that question. How, if you're a determinist, how is it that people are morally culpable given that their choices could not have been otherwise? And if you believe in free will, how is that possible without God? Number 4, Richard Dawkins has long been praised by atheists as one of the 4 horsemen of the new atheism. But recently he's caused some controversy with some comments about the trans debate. For many atheists, he's right about science when it comes to young earth creationism versus evolution, but he's wrong when it comes to this current cultural debate. Do you personally think he's right or wrong, and why? Now, for this last question, there's a little bit of setup. Here's a quote from Robin Collins about the fine-tuning of the universe, and I'd like to know what your reaction to it is. Suppose we went on a mission to Mars and found a domed structure in which everything was set up just right for life to exist. The temperature, for example, was set to around 70 degrees Fahrenheit and the humidity was at 50%. Moreover, there was an oxygen recycling system, an energy gathering system, and a whole system for the production of food. Put simply, the domed structure appeared to be a fully functioning biosphere. What conclusion would we draw from finding this structure? Would we draw the conclusion that it just happened to form by chance? Certainly not. Instead, we would unanimously conclude that it was designed by some intelligent being. Why would we draw this conclusion? Because an intelligent designer appears to be the only plausible explanation for the existence of the structure. That is the only alternative explanation we can think of, that the structure was formed by some natural process, seems extremely unlikely. Of course, it is possible that, for example, through some volcanic eruption, various metals and other compounds could have formed and then separated out in just the right way to produce the biosphere. But such a scenario strikes us as extraordinarily unlikely, thus making this alternative explanation unbelievable. The universe is analogous to such a biosphere, according to recent findings in physics. Almost everything about the basic structure of the universe, for example, the fundamental laws and parameters of physics and the initial distribution of matter and energy, is balanced on a razor's edge for life to occur. As the eminent Princeton physicist Freeman Dyson notes, quote, "There are many lucky accidents in physics. Without such accidents, water could not exist as liquid, chains of carbon atoms could not form complex organic molecules, and hydrogen atoms could not form breakable bridges between molecules. In short, life as we know it would be impossible." Now, he goes on to say the following. A few examples from the literature of this fine-tuning are listed below. 1. If the initial explosion of the Big Bang had differed in strength by as little as 1 part in 10 to the 60th, the universe would have either quickly collapsed back on itself or expanded too quickly for stars to form. In either case, life would be impossible. As John Jefferson Davis points out, an accuracy of 1 part in 10 to the 60th can be compared to firing a bullet at a 1-inch target on the other side of the observable universe, 20 billion light years away, and hitting the target. 2. Calculations indicate that if the strong nuclear force, the force that binds protons and neutrons together in an atom, had been stronger or weaker by as little as 5%, life would be impossible. 3. Calculations by Brandon Carter show that if gravity had been stronger or weaker by 1 part in 10 to the 40th, then life-sustaining stars like the sun could not exist. This would most likely make life impossible. 4. If the neutron were not about 1.001 times the mass of the proton, all protons would have decayed into neutrons, or all neutrons would have decayed into protons, and thus life would not be possible. 5. If the electromagnetic force were slightly stronger or weaker, life would be impossible for a variety of different reasons. Now, these are some of the kinds of facts that are often used to make fine-tuning arguments, some of the best arguments for God's existence according to almost everyone involved. So here's the question. Are we wrong to think that this supports theism? If so, why?